Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to technically an After Nine. I'm the cheesehead, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by.
I am the Skold, Kirklin Patzer.
Oh yeah, there we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, you might be wondering, this is a very specific type of cast, but we're doing it because hopefully this will become an annual tradition. So this is After Nine, but not After Nine in the same sense that I'll be back next month because we got this one happening, and then next week I'm hosting the After Nine Oscar prediction. So kind of very specific After Nine categories. But what we did is the great Matty Sags is he created a fantasy draft for us here at GeekVerse, and we're gonna bring on some people that were in that draft in just a moment here. What we did is for both that, and then after the fantasy draft, we did a playoff pool, and the winners of that got to choose a movie that everybody gets to talk or watch, and then the loser of the fantasy draft had to pick a movie that the fans voted on, which unfortunately was Matty. And I'm excited to hear his thoughts on the holiday special because you and I we've been through that many years ago. We did that for Patreon, and that was one of the funnest casts. If people have never watched it, it's somewhere on the Patreon. I recommend the commentary track. It was a good time, but yeah, we just thought, oh well, there's no fun of just like we watched the movie and be like, yeah, it was good, and then that's about it. Like, we'll have a mini discussion. So we're going to talk about the three movies, nothing too in depth, but talk about at least the two movies. We'll hear Maddie's thoughts. I'm going to save Maddie's thoughts for the holiday special. But I am joined by someone that just we talk about probably here and there on news or originals and whatnot, but has enjoyed his first complete season of American football. So I'm joined by.
Yeah.
Oh, you already said your name.
Yeah,
Fuck, I'm so
Skold,
tired.
Kirklin Patzer. Yeah.
We're just talking about how we're both up at 5:30 in the morning. So it's
Tripped
like,
me
that's
out for
why.
a second. I'm like, am I the one that's crazy? Did I not say my name just now? I'm good.
Anyway, so I'm joined here by every 5 minutes.
Just
I'm
gaslighting
me. Yeah, we never invite the people on because it just keeps starting over and over. But yeah, so while you're talking, I'm going to be dropping some links. Yeah, we'll talk like a little bit of football because that's what this is. We're talking about the movies. And yeah, so if you really want reviews on Tombstone or Wild Robot, this is a perfect cast for you. But
It's
which
rare
is
for us to be talking about like three different movies. Like,
yes.
like there's, like we'll do what we've been watching, but like we actually have an episode talking about like three specific. Obviously, it's mostly about Matty and his Star Wars holiday special, but we have seen it, so we can give our opinions on it. But yeah, it's definitely a unique episode. It's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah. And then what was it gonna say? Oh shit, I can't remember. Oh yeah, and then it kind of worked as a cheat for you because you had to watch Wild Robot anyways for Golden Geek. So
You keep doing this. I had already seen it. Like I seen it months ago, and then
I think
you're like, you gotta watch it this week, and then you gotta watch it again for football.
Did you say that in the Discord though that you had watched it? When we threw over the
Yes,
film? Okay.
yes, because I think it was before you took your little sabbatical there. I like
Was
talked
it?
about the movie because Shay and I had rented it on POV, like on POV,
I don't think I was on
VOD.
that cast.
We got the Wild Robot perspective. We got that.
Yeah. I don't think I was on that cast. But
Okay.
there you go. You got to
Never
watch
mind.
double then. So it's a little preview because this week coming up is Golden Geeks. But yeah, what do you think about your first season of some football there? You got into it this year.
It
maybe
was
ended with a bit of a meh, but
I mean, overall, it was still a really fun season. I feel like leading up to it, I really didn't know how into it I was going to get because I just watched like a couple little football docs before the season, and that's kind of when I was like, I might follow it this year. And then, of course, we paired it with the fantasy draft, which was just so much fun. That was such a fun thing to just follow. It doesn't take like too much, mental power. Like I like the app that we're using too. Like it really dumbs it down and simplifies it. So even if you don't know anything about football, like I was in the start of the season, I feel like I was still able to kind of stay up there. I actually finished number 1, I think, at the end of the season. So it was going into the playoffs. I mean, I was the number 1 seed.
Like don't try and lie to our listeners.
So we're going to be talking about this
won.
movie that I'm dropping right now.
I won. Yeah, I guess I can get the actual rankings here. Yeah, okay. You know what? I got a fucking huge still bone to pick with you. Or I think the sleeper
me?
rankings. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's complete. So here's the standing. So to give the clearance, let's see. So where do they not have number 1? Okay, so number 1. Dalton won. He won. Good for him. He got to pick. He's the one that picked Tombstone, and then Clay was second. Clay, shout out to Clay, big comeback because for a while he had a really bad record. And then you were in third place, and then John was in fourth. I was in fifth. Sam was in sixth, Matty was in seventh, and then Super Bad Mike was eighth. So the Montreal boys sharing the bottom there. But because I'm still, I don't know what would have happened, but you and me had pretty much the exact same record, except you had one game over me, and it's so annoying. The one week I did not put in Daniels, fucking Love got injured, and that's the only reason you beat me. You beat me only by like 4 points too. So like Daniels throws one couple throws, like it's over, and that's what bugs me. I find I get beats, and that's what I hate because you got to buy, and then I had to fight, and then I lost in the first round to Clay, who the last two times I versed Clay just destroyed him. So out of nowhere, the fucking Lions. So
He
Lions
beat
got
me.
what they deserve, though.
He beat you, and then he beat me. He just
Underdog
slaughtered
of
his
the
way
year right
through
there.
the
Yeah.
GV guys. So yeah, no, that was I went through all the emotions. I lost first round I played in the playoffs. My Vikings lost first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was a fun season with not so fun end to it. But overall, throughout the whole football season, I had a lot of fun following it. It really is a fun sport to follow in the sense of like, especially if you're just following your team. Like it's like one game a week, you know.
Yes.
Like you can plan around it Thursdays, Sundays, Mondays. Like it's super simple to just work around your schedule. And then of course if you have time, like there's just so much games on the Sundays. So and it's fun to talk shit in the the fantasy
Yes.
draft as well. Like that makes it just so much more like you have skin in the game. Like of course you have your personal team that you're rooting for, but then you're rooting for your draft guys. And I will say, like I feel like it just made me so much more aware of other players, like having my own roster on different teams.
Absolutely.
Like I felt so much more invested rooting for the players I had drafted, you know. So yeah, that was so much fun, and definitely had beginner's luck. I was doing pretty good. I was also like third pick, I think, in the draft, which helped me secure some good picks. And but then again, like my number one pick was Tyreek Hill, and that was just such a bomb. I should have traded him or dropped him like super early on in the season. And I don't know, I felt scared doing that because it's just such a high priority pick, and you never know what's going to happen week to week. But I definitely learned a lot, I think, on the fantasy side of things going into next year's draft. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, no, same thing. Definitely some change. Yeah, same thing that happened to me. I think my number two draft, it was 2 or 3. I picked like Marquise Brown, aka Hollywood Brown, the Chiefs, and like week 1, they're like, yeah, he's actually on injury reserve now, and it's like, oh well, that was just a complete waste. So there's definitely some things I'd change up, but no, because I hadn't done fantasy in a while, and I'm always watching football every year, but I feel like the last few years I've been the weakest on it, just like. It slips and just don't have time yet. But this year, just because, like you said, when you got players draft up and because now I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna go. Before when it's like, oh, I look and there's no Packers and there's no Bills, and now I'm a Commanders. But when the season started, I was not a Commanders fan, so I was like, okay, if they're not playing, what do I do? And it's like, oh, what game to pick? But at least this was like, okay, I got Derrick Henry on my roster. Sure, I'll throw on the Ravens game and you'd be watching. So that actually helped. So not that I can say it like I'm going to be doing this every year because I'm not going to put that on Matty, but in some form or fashion, it definitely helps the enjoyment of it. And yeah, it was a fun time. It was a good time. And even the Super Bowl for me, I really enjoyed it because I know people talk about how much a shit game and a bad game it was. For me, I loved watching the game just because I was fascinated by it because I did not think that's how everything was going to go down last weekend, was just this complete slaughtering of the Chiefs. Like I thought if anything the Eagles pulled out, which you and me were completely, I can't remember who said in the chat, but you and me were completely wrong. We're like, yeah, Eagles aren't winning. I just didn't see it happening. I did not like and especially even in the playoffs, there's multiple teams that are, like I said, my Packers lost them by a field goal. My Packers aren't that good. They have great days, but overall they're a decent good team, but they're not on the top echelon. So it's like, okay, Eagles can't even beat my team. It's like, how are they going to beat this? And it was just a wild game to watch. So that's why for me it wasn't like a bad game because each down it was just like fascinating, just seeing stuff like the whole year where it's like, I think it was something like Mahomes had this 6-run like plays of like sack, interception, sack, interception, sack. It was just like things you hadn't seen all year of just this defense just destroying this guy, and like seeing the Gatorade spill like still 2 minutes left, like all this stuff that usually you wait to like, oh look, there's 6 seconds on the clock, we can hurry, or sometimes it's not till after the game the Gatorade comes out. But this was like, and like Mahomes go through like a 65-yard touchdown, doesn't matter, no one cares, it's just dead quiet and stuff. So it was a fun time. So was there any other teams, because obviously you became a Vikings fan, was there any other teams you were liking along the way? Because like I said, I'm a Packer, but I always like to have some backup teams, just because it's like, okay, I gotta have something, even though I've completely just given up on Josh Allen. This is the year I've given up on him. There was a time where after Rodgers won the Super Bowl, I was like, if they're not back in the Super Bowl 5 years, I give up on that happening, and that didn't happen. And to me, that's what happened this year with Josh Allen. Like I can't remember how many years ago, but I said, oh, this guy, that's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And maybe he is, but like with this team, it's like it proved me wrong. So I'll still be cheering. I'm not leaving the team, but it's like I've just come to the conclusion of like, you know what? I don't think that's in the cards right now, but you never know.
Yeah. For me, I feel like it definitely is based around the players that I drafted. Like, I definitely not a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles, especially just like based around their fans. Didn't want them to win, but Saquon Barkley, man, I'm like such a fan of his.
So fun to watch.
It's so hard for me to not root for him, because he's just such a genuine nice guy. Like, you see him in interviews, and just like the way he carries himself, he's just such like a professional, and he's just so fucking good too. Like the season that he had this year should have been MVP. He was insane. So super fun to watch him, even though it was like, oh, I don't want the Eagles to to win. So I was conflicted there. Lamar Jackson was my number one quarterback this year, so of course that team was like really fun to watch, paired up with Derrick Henry. Like, they just had some killers on offense. It was pretty crazy. It was disappointing.
You got to see playoff Lamar in the action.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember before you're like, oh, look at all these stats. Look at like, not that you're like for sure
they were
going
to make it through that first game at least. But it was
there's just
a
some
rough
players that they just like, even my mother-in-law, who like, she watches like, I won't say a lot of football, but it's on because my father-in-law watched a lot of football. But even when she came to pick up the kids, she asked about the Ravens. Like, oh yeah, they lost. She's like, oh yeah, that guy, he just can't win anything in the playoffs. Huh? Like, without me even prompting her, I'm like, see, Emily, like, it's just like it's a thing, which is good if you eventually win, because that becomes the like, you've reached the brass ring, you've overcome it. But then if you never win, you get the poor Dan Marino, where that's what you're known as, that you just, because I don't care. I know some people, it's back and forth. Like, at least, and that's what I said to Emily too, and I think I'd said that in the Discord, at least with Barkley, it's like, thank goodness for him he won the Super Bowl, because I would have been mega pissed if, okay, you didn't let me break the record and we didn't win the fucking bowl. Like, you fucking kidding me? I would have been pissed. But now it's like, it would have been, of course, having the all-time rushing record, that is a great thing to have. It's like, okay, well, I'm a Super Bowl winner now. So that's the main thing. Because at the end of the day, like, people, like, they do bring up stats. They do talk about these things in post shows and everything like that. And when the commentators, like, whatever. But, like, it comes down to the Super Bowl and if you got a fucking ring, Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Matty? Isn't that right, Matty?
How's it going, boy?
That introduction.
What have you been chatting about? I didn't get a chance to hear.
We were just talking about the season overall, but we're talking about we were
I have
talking
two
about
other
Lamar
teams
Jackson.
to shout out as well of my my teams we've been rooting for that aren't our main teams essentially.
I asked him because I said like I always like to have a rotation of 3 teams, just you have something going on. So I asked him if there's any more people other than the Vikings that he'd taken a liking to, and we started talking about Ravens and Eagles and stats versus rings, etc.
Yeah.
And then
I've seen already. Sorry, Kirk, but I've seen already that you guys just playing fantasy, like you're already attached to like some of those guys, right? From your fantasy team.
Absolutely.
It always happens that way too. Yeah. And that's
Save
why
flowers, man. Save flowers.
When you're drafting too, it's like you want to draft going forward, like guys that like you kind of want to watch and follow too. So it's going to factor into how you draft. I love the Kirklin jersey. I love the jersey Kirklin. Sorry, man. It's
best colors
great.
in the NFL.
What's the shirt that you're rocking, Travis? I can't see the logo.
Just Green Lantern.
Okay, so
I don't have. I did.
I thought
tell
it was an Eagles shirt.
I did tell myself. I said if either Bills or Commanders made it to the Super Bowl, 9-1, it's like I'm either buying Allen or Daniels. So I fully believe in Daniels. I agree with Kirkland's assessment. He is the one.
Well, that I'm
he's the
for.
chosen one.
He's fantastic. He's just so like calm and collected for like how young he is. It's just so impressive.
And that's a classic team where they're going to get better and better, but literally it's like they could lose to the worst team in the league, but then they also beat the best team in the league, like they did the Lions, right? Like that's what I love about Commanders. They are the definition of any given Sunday. You don't know what's going to happen when you put on that game. It could be they could destroy. They could get destroyed. You never know. But no, I haven't bought a new Packers gear in a while because I have my Rodgers jersey, but I don't put that on. It's kind of cursed now. It's just after we won the
Gonna
Super
rip the
Bowl,
name off or something.
yeah, like after we won the Super Bowl, I bought like the Super Bowl one. I've had that forever. I don't wear it now. It's also too small, but it's like I don't fully trust Love yet to buy that jersey, you know. And oh God, who's my man on the Packers now? Who's the running back? I'm forgetting. He's a monster.
Josh Jacobs,
yes. So like I want to, but you never know if running backs, because some teams they like will use them for leverage. You're like, let's go get some draft picks. So like I want to buy a Jacobs jersey, but am I gonna be in 2 years screwed when he's like playing for the Oakland Raiders or whatever? And so it's like, so that's I'm waiting, but I think Daniels might be the next one. Plus, Emily hates the bill color. She's like, those are ugly jerseys. Please don't get one. She's like, Commander's fine.
So nice.
But
The blue?
I like
Come
the
on.
blue.
I like
the
them.
Blue, the blue
Yeah,
guys.
I like them,
Yeah.
but
I'm a blue guy for sure.
so Commander's one of your teams. Who's the other one? Is it? Not
Yeah,
Eagles,
so-
but just Barkley. Not the
Lamar
team. Just
Jackson, you said? Lamar guy.
Barkley, Lamar Jackson for sure. The other one that I feel like I wasn't even really rooting for them. I was just so like surprised with how they did was the Bengals. Actually, like going into it, I had Joe Burrow as my second team, or sorry, my second QB, and I'm like, man, like this is gonna be a good run for them. Like they just look so good, just based on their highlights and stuff that I had seen, and they just did so horribly, especially considering how well Joe Burrow did, like individually, or Jamar Chase or stuff like that. Like it was just so surprising they didn't even
good
make
comeback
playoffs.
though. Near the end of the year, they started.
True.
They almost
Yeah.
got to. They were like 2 teams losing weight again in the playoffs. Didn't happen, but like they were.
Yeah.
They
were,
always
like,
start
this
off
close.
slow though. That's why they have too much ground to make up after. Like they
Yeah.
finished the year hot, but they dug themselves a hole. That's what I love about the sport too. It just goes to show, like you mentioned, Burrow and Jamar Chase. Like the offense couldn't be stopped, but yet they still, they finished 9-8.
Yep.
They didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like it's both sides of the ball. That's why I love it. Like one side could be elite, but doesn't necessarily guarantee you anything either.
Mhm.
Well, talking about NFL merchandise gear coming up here. Look at Superman Mike has joined the chat. My God, rocking
The
an
Eagles
hat.
I've had this hat for like 15 years, no lie.
No
Because
way.
when I was a teenager, for some reason, I was just an Eagles fan because I just liked the logo because I knew nothing
Yeah.
about football back then. And who knew that it would come in handy one day? So, yeah.
You're not even a bandwagoner. You have like old merch. You can't say that you like just
Yeah.
bought like because they won.
And I'm also wearing my old high school football jersey.
Wow,
Oh, nice. He's rocking out. Yeah. You
Mike,
can walk
did you
around
know-
with that hat and be like, I've always been supporting Eagles. Always knew they could do this. Always believed 15 years strong. Always believed.
I know
so-
it was back when they beat the Patriots. Back when everyone hated the Patriots, so I'm like,
Nice.
they have like a nice streak of beating the teams everyone hates. So
Yeah.
They do. Yeah, they really do. Yeah, Chiefs and Patriots now. Who know? Maybe they'll become the team to hate soon, because they did the
They
same
already are,
thing. Everyone
Travis.
this year was like, "Oh, we're 2-peating again. Don't worry." It's like,
Yeah.
did we not
Hurts
learn
dynasty.
anything? Yeah, did we not learn anything last year when it's like it's like I don't know if it was the first interview. One of the first interviews on the field Mahomes did. It was like, "What do you think about this game?" And he was just like, "Dynasty, start of the dynasty." Now I'm not saying it's not, but like, say it when you break the record. Like, just wait, just wait, because I just feel like that put them bad juju to like get that 3-peat, And
They
hey,
barely
still-
enjoyed last year. They were talking on the podium about the 3-peat already. Like we got a
100%.
3-peat.
Yeah.
It's like they
and
barely
I
enjoyed it.
it just sticks in my brain because I talked about this in Discord. I remember, I think it was like one of the first questions Rodgers got after he won the Super Bowl. He's like, "Oh, you guys are a young team, like you're gonna be back, right?" Oh yeah, absolutely. You'll see us here. It's just like, oh no, like I even as a fan bond to them, like, oh, this is the first time, like I'm gonna be rocking high. I got Clay Matthews, I got Charles Woodson, I got Aaron Rodgers. Like I can't wait. And then now he's just on Pat McAfee every week talking about fucking like horse serum or something. But
Again, another thing I love about the sport though, because that narrative always starts whenever a team, they win, they look dominant, and then that becomes the conversation. Oh, is this the next dynasty? When before it's like it's already started. People want to get that out there. Mike, did you know you had that hat like lying somewhere? Did you have to like find it, or you just knew where it was? You knew
I
you
might have
had
spent
it,
a good
like-
20 to 30 minutes looking for it. I'm not gonna lie, but it was worth it.
I appreciate it for the bit.
Yeah.
It's perfect. But
Yeah.
we're talking about seasons and tough seasons endings right now. I got to bring him in, the man who had the toughest end at
no.
all. Clay, our resident
The perpetual
Detroit-
heartbreak.
our resident Detroit Lions fanboy, who I think everybody in the world is like the heart sunk for you and every Detroit Lion fan, because obviously me and Kirkland, we're in the same division, so rivals. But it's like, okay, I guess not so much for Minnesota, but it's like, Packers, we've won this many times. Everyone keeps saying it's your time. And maybe that's the same thing. It's like the dynasty thing, right? Too many people put in the air of like, oh, Lions is like a for sure thing this year. That's what happened. We're Eagles. Like I said, I'm like, oh, they'll get there. But like, I give them no shot. I'm like, that's not happening. I don't think. And look at that, just destroy them. But how are you doing, Clay? And have you recovered now? It's been a few weeks now. Are you good to go?
I have.
Did you watch the
yeah.
Super Bowl?
I did not. Well, actually, I did watch the first half.
Yeah.
I had some buddies watching it, and I did it more as a social thing. But at halftime, after the Kendrick show, which I'm not a big Kendrick Lamar guy, but I actually thought that was a pretty good halftime show. I liked all the choreography and stuff.
The choreography and cinematography too was just like it felt like a music video, which might sound bad, but like that's hard to pull off live. Like to be playing like every time there was music, then a nice transition back to Sam Jackson. It was like very smooth. So I agree with you. It was a good show.
Sam Jackson stole the show. I'll say that.
He was great. Yeah, Mike hates hates the music, right?
Let me put it this way. It would be the equivalent of if Idina Menzel came out and just sang the entire Wicked soundtrack from beginning to end for you guys. That's what it
maybe
was like.
next year for Wicked for good, So
no, I mean, Super Bowl is what it is. I guess I wasn't really rooting for anybody, but I'll take the Chiefs not winning again. It's just boring. And then the big thing, I hadn't watched sports, I don't think, since the Super Bowl. I guess that was only a week or two ago. But last night, I didn't even know this Four Nations hockey thing was going on.
Yeah,
I tuned into that USA, and I'm not here to gloat against someone.
Yeah.
But
Damn you.
It was glorious, man. It was glorious. I watched it in all its
It was
glory.
awesome.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Montreal,
Dropped the gloves right off the gate.
Yeah, starts with a
Crowd-
fight 3
The
seconds
crowd
in.
was going nuts, man. It was
No, that was cool. I'm excited. I mean, they're probably going to have a rematch on Thursday.
that's what I was going to say. Don't celebrate too soon.
Right.
We might see you again on Thursday.
I think
play with
so.
the 4 Canadians in the room right now.
Glad we're not in person. You can beat my ass.
He's wearing a hockey hat too. Look at this guy.
Oh yeah.
Is he actually?
Oh yeah.
So I take it because
Wow, nice.
I'm completely checked out. I'm taking what is it? It's Canada team they lost, right, or everything like that.
Yeah.
Like other than baseball, hockey's the sport I'm like most. I'll get back into when we get to the playoffs because the girls like it a bit more than me. But okay, I knew at one point we were down 2-1. I heard about the fight, so that's the only thing I heard about was like 5 minutes in, 3 fights, all this stuff. But okay.
No, 9 seconds, not 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I think like 5 minutes. There's already 3 separate fights, but you.
Oh, yeah.
I know. It was
9
9 seconds. It was
9
seconds.
seconds,
Jeez Louise.
It was something.
old
Yeah,
hockey.
it was,
And
But
we
then
lost too,
they
embarrassing.
played. Then it was like a pretty clean game.
Yeah,
after that. Just good game.
it was.
Just got it out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You watched a bit of it, you guys. You saw some highlights.
I watched the whole thing.
You watched it. Okay, nice.
I watched majority of it. I jumped in. Like I missed the beginning. I totally
Yeah.
forgot that it was on at 5. And then my sister was like messaging me. It's like there's already like 3 fights. I'm like, Jesus, what's going on? So I tuned in there. I was just like, I was more just surprised, I think, because going into it, I just was looking at the roster of Canada, and I'm like, this is literally like the dream team. Like I can't understand this team could lose. So when the U.S.
Dynasty.
played, it was a close game. Going into it, that's what they're saying.
Don't jinx
Dynasty.
us.
See you in
Don't
2
jinx
weeks. They were
Canadian
saying
dynasty.
yeah.
Now the USA is stacked though. Like all jokes aside, their
Absolutely.
roster is equally as stacked.
It was a good game.
It
It was a good game. It was really fast.
Yeah.
Do you have cable, Kirkland?
No, I just find streams.
Okay, I was
Good
just
old
sure. You
Reddit
just said-
rabbit holes. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to do that today. Luckily, shout out to David on the gimmick. He has Peacock in America because, like, one of these things that are annoying is I guess I should set up that the SNL 50 things tonight, which is really odd. It's on a Sunday. Because I thought it was last night, and me, Kirkland, Taylor played Call of Duty. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna miss the show, whatever. I'll watch in the morning. But I really want to watch that because, like, I haven't watched SNL in I don't know, years, because anytime I put that on, it's for me, it's mostly brutal. There's like good portions, but like, and it's not the cast fault, but I'll definitely watch 50 because again, talk about Dynasty, that's an SNL Dynasty. You look at who's on tonight, it's like everybody that's like gonna be in a skit. So, but I was like,
what have I been seeing then? Because I thought that it happened.
no, they did a concert before.
Okay,
so what they
that's
did a
what it
couple
was.
nights ago is they
Okay.
did like the past 50 years, our favorite. So that's why there's like
Okay.
Cher and Robin and like all these people, and like Will Ferrell
Yeah,
sang a song, of
documentaries
course.
too that showcase like the
Yes.
different sketches and stuff.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
what
the
it
whole
was,
week,
yeah.
but now tonight at 4. I think it's 4 p.m. PST is it's on Peacock. I don't know if it's on like NBC or where it is on Canada. Like I said, luckily Dave from the Gimmick has a Peacock. I'm borrowing his account because it's one of those services that like even in Canada, I can't use a VPN and buy for it. Like how I watch wrestling, I can use a VPN and like, yeah, just give us your money. We don't care. But there's some apps like you're like, let me give you my $7. It doesn't matter that I'm in Canada. Like I'm using a VPN. I'm willing to give you $7. And Peacock's like, no, we can't have that. Your PayPal's a Canadian account. It's like, all right, fine, fuck you. I'm just not going to pay for it and use David's account. And that's what I'm doing tonight. But yeah, tonight is it's going to be it's a fucking 4.5-hour SNL. And it's like, but it's like Eddie Murphy, like all like legendary people.
Are they doing new skits though, or they're like going through like the highlights?
No, it's new skits. Yeah, it's all
cool.
It's like it's a super mega show. Okay. So for me, as like a big fan of Passes, and I'm like, okay, I can't wait. Anytime Eddie's there, Eddie's my guy. So I'm excited.
Travis, do you like my favorite Eddie Murphy one? I don't know if it's really appropriate anymore, but what is it? It's like his Mr. Rogers Neighborhood.
Mr. Rogers is amazing. Oh, yeah. That's where when I did that once in the Gauntlet, that was the inspiration of just like
so funny.
Today's word is eviction.
Yeah.
If I don't pay my rent tonight, I will be evicted.
Like, so good.
Oh, you know, Eddie was to me is the best SNL person. Yeah. He carried that show for years, and yeah, I loved it.
He's great. So, he's great.
Yeah. Is it going to be playing on NBC, like live on TV?
That I don't know. I imagine so. I just know it's Peacock, but I just don't have cable. So that's where it's like, okay, I'm like Kirklin. We're like, okay, I got to bust out where to watch Reddit, and then thank God for Reddit, you know. So. All right. Well, let's start talking about some stuff. If anyone else joins, we can get them caught up on their thoughts. But any final thoughts on the season or anything like that? Matty, again, thanks for setting that up. Lots of fun. I'm excited for next year.
Yeah, thanks, Matty.
We got to run it back, boys. We got to run it back.
Oh yeah.
We will. Yeah. So
I do want to caution Kirklin actually, because you said Vikings and Lamar Jackson. Like that's two. Two properties with lots of playoff baggage. So maybe get that third choice in there, like Travis.
He does. He said it's his Commanders, so he's got that.
Commanders.
So.
Okay,
yes, absolutely.
Nice, good stuff.
We got a good look until it's like RG3, where Daniel's like breaks his legs a bunch of times, then like he's washed up. So, but let's talk about Dalton. Not here right now. He won both pools, the bastard. So we're gonna start. Let's talk about Tombstone. I'm gonna give it to Clay because even before. We talked about this and like, okay, we're gonna do a mini cast, talk about I don't know how, whether it's after our Discord. I just feel like I've heard Clay bring up Tombstone before. So what was the first time you've watched it? I'm gonna do something like retrospective. When was the first time you watched it, and what are your thoughts about it now in 2025, Clay?
So I actually this is something I kind of mentally prepared for. I mean, I don't even know why I was kind of thinking about this. I'm like, we're going to have this conversation about Tombstone. I was trying to remember the first time I watched it, and I can't because it's weird. I remember the first time I watched the Kevin Costner version, Wyatt Earp. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so.
I saw that first. So I think they came out within a year of each other or something. And not that I was alive then, but I remember when my dad was like, we got into, okay, now you can watch PG-13 R-rated movies, 5th, 6th grade, whatever. And I remember getting into Wyatt Earp, and I would watch it on repeat. We had a DVD. I would just watch it over and over. And then I don't think I discovered Tombstone till high school, maybe late high school or early college. And I was like, man, I'm a huge Kurt Russell fan. How have I not watched this? And man, like it is a very, very good movie for the first 2/3. And then when everything after, when he says like you tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me, it moves up to a freaking different level. And it is the most exciting movie I've ever seen. It is absolutely bananas. There's no plot. It's just like we're forming a freaking vigilante gang and hunting these guys down. But man, it's good. And there's that sweet shot right after where they're all riding out as the sun's setting and they just go and get their guys. And I don't think anything gets me jacked up in a movie like that last 30 minutes of that movie. It's freaking awesome.
The Kevin Costner one, it's crazy. I was looking at the cast. Another like good cast. You got Kevin Costner, you got Dennis Quaid, Gene Hackman, you got Mark Harmon from NCIS theme, you got Michael Madsen, Catherine O'Hare, Isabella Rossellini, Bill Pullman, Tom Sizemore. Like these westerns just bring in. I don't know. People
Nuts.
just want to be fucking cowboys, which I agree because I want to be
Yeah,
a cowboy.
seriously.
You know,
Yeah.
so I've never seen, like, even looking at the
It's
poster.
okay.
I don't think I've ever seen this Kevin Costner one. I feel like
It's
Kevin
okay.
Costner. Yeah.
It's too long. It doesn't have anything on Tombstone. It has some good parts if I remember, but I haven't watched it in forever. So
Yeah.
You know, it's so
Oh,
funny that you
wow.
mentioned that Gene Hackman's in it because when I watched Tombstone, I could have sworn Gene Hackman was in it. And I was waiting, like, when is he showing up? I thought he was in this thing. And now it makes sense because I'm like, oh, I must have confused those two movies and thought he
Well,
was in
he's-
that one.
he's
Have you
also in
seen the other one?
Unforgiven
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
and Quick and the Dead. He had a whole Western phase in the 90s. Yeah.
Had you
There was
seen
an
the other
anomaly
one,
he
Mike?
wasn't in it,
Had you
The-
seen
the Kevin
the
Costner-
Costner one?
No,
The Kevin
that's why I'm
Costner
wondering
one.
why I would have confused it.
It was directed by Lawrence Kasdan as well. That's interesting. The guy who wrote Empire.
Oh, because him and
Sorry,
Costner did Silverado in
Yeah.
'85, and that's how they started going together. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And I'll have to check that one time. Yeah. Oh, geez. So, Mike, let's start with you. So, this, no minor spoilers, but this was your first time ever watching Tombstone. So, what were your
Yes, it
what were your
was.
thoughts? Yeah.
So I watched it 2 times actually. Watched it once
Oh.
a couple of weeks ago, and I watched it again 2 days ago to get ready for this. And the first time I watched it, I found it hard getting into the first half because it introduces a lot of characters to you. They all kind of like in typical Western period fashion, kind of look the same. But first
Yes.
off, like. Award for best facial hair definitely goes
Oh, yeah.
to this movie because all the mustaches and the Guy Fawkes going on, love that. But it also made it kind of hard to distinguish people. But once I kind of knew who each actor was, I recognized it. And so the first half is a lot of stuff that that's not really happening. You're just kind of getting immersed into the world of it, which I can appreciate. And I was kind of waiting for when the story would start. But then kind of like what Clay said, once the actual posse gets formed and the grudge really starts to develop and you get the shootouts, I really started to enjoy it. And watching it a second time, that first half plays a lot better. So I had at a 3.5 out of 5 first time. Second time, I bumped it up to a 4 because knowing what happens, that first half gets a lot better. And just the actors that are in it are all fantastic. Seeing them in their prime is really fun. The only thing I still think is my negative about it is the love story feels really kind of like truncated in there, and it kind of messes with the flow. Especially there's times where things are supposed to be serious, and then suddenly you get a scene that's from I don't know, like some kind of Nicholas Sparks movie where it's like, oh, and they fell in love together. I'm like, okay, we just saw spoilers. We just saw his friend die, and now suddenly he's got a happy ending, and then the voiceover is talking about all the other people that died. So that was a
The
bit
ending
off.
is so weird.
Yeah.
The ending is so freaking weird.
Yeah.
But
Even
overall,
the way
no, I
they
really
write
enjoyed it.
off his wife, just and she
Yeah.
continued to be a drunk
Yeah.
person, and
Yeah, she died of an
Carry on.
overdose 2 days later. But
It's
even
like,
the
did they
relationship
get-
in general, because both of them were with someone else. She seemed to be with that guy, the theater guy, and he was with his woman, and they're
Yes.
both having an affair, and it's supposed to be treated as this epic love story. So that was the only part where I'm like, I don't know about this, but apart from that,
It's like-
great movie.
did they legally get divorced? What happened there?
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know.
he was-
that.
Yeah, well, he was gay. That's how I took it. The Billy Zane
Kurt
character.
Russell? Oh, Billy Zane,
Kurt
okay.
Russell, I'm like,
No.
wow, big shock. I'm like, please tell me the subcontext there.
Well, because right when she
Yes.
sees Kurt Russell, he's pumping her up. He's a tall glass of water, isn't he? So he's kind of also making comments about Kurt Russell and stuff. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they're just friends.
Yeah.
They're friends through the
Okay.
theater, and then
And that's why I want a little bit more. I guess I go to my thoughts where it's interesting because she gives some speech about she's just a free spirit, right? She's not going to be tied down to anybody. It just sounds like she's sleeping around, having a good time. So that's why it's kind of weird. Hey, what's different about Kurt Russell that because they say oh, they get married, they're together for 47 years. So it's she actively many times be like, hey, I don't want to be a monogamous because that's kind of boring. That's not my life. But I guess Kurt Russell's just that much of a man. I just wish there was a little bit more of a build up there because I think that is my only really negative of the movie because it feels like they'll talk him up oh, can you resist her? It's yeah, I don't care about her, whatever. And then when he sees you're the greatest woman I've ever seen in my life. He turns into Leo from Titanic like that. And it's crazy to watch. So I wish there was a little more rough and tumble, some build up there, or just get rid of it all. But I think I just seen this randomly on TV one day. I'm not gonna say Spike TV, but something like that where it was just on. And same thing. So it's kind of like Clay, where I don't have a specific oh, I watched it with my dad or was in a theater. It's just oh yeah, I saw Tombstone on TBS. It was probably TBS actually. I guarantee you for us, that's what I think it was. And that's where it's okay, and then I've seen it a few times overall because massive Val Kilmer fan. Love Kurt Russell in these situations. That's why I was very happy to watch Bone Tomahawk last year, because he's pretty much just playing Wyatt Earp again. Like, if people have not seen Bone Tomahawk and you like this
him,
movie,
yeah,
it looks like him. He acts the same way. He is married in that movie, so you could probably just headcanon that's the same character maybe and just have some fun. But no, this is something that I imagine that kids right now in 20 years, when they look back and they see like Endgame and superhero movies are dead, and they're like, look at this cast. Like, that's how I forgot how many people were in this. Like, just even when like
Nuts,
Terry
man.
O'Quinn from Lost pops up for a scene,
nuts.
or like Billy Bob Thornton, because he looks like, I don't know if it's the beard or he was like in a bulking phase, but he looks like the biggest I've ever seen him. He's
His
a
face
smaller
looked
guy.
thick, yeah. His face
Yeah,
looked
so I don't know if
thick,
he
man.
was like having a bunch of, he was going for a Wolverine role in the 90s or something, but like he looked bigger, and it's so good. The chemistry's all good. I agree with Mike, they introduced a lot at the beginning, but it's a fun time. And yeah, for me, it's like I always go back and forth between this or Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and I probably lean that way, but it's one of Val Kilmer's best role. I love him so much as Dog. He, like, I could just watch that guy just like that scene, Matty and Queer, where it's just Daniel Craig for 3 minutes just sitting in a room staring. Like, I could have Val Kilmer just be like, yeah, be drunk for like 10 minutes and let's see what happens. I know that's probably what makes it better, is it's in small doses, because he's in it a lot, but I feel like he disappears for a while, or he's always just like sitting around being sick or drunk, but just even in the background, his facials. And yeah, man, I'm obviously still alive and he still acts and whatnot, but I hate that Val Kilmer can only like do limited acting now, because I would just love to see him in so much stuff. But no, I think I'm with Mike. I don't know where I have to letterbox. I think I'm somewhere in the I think I'm like a 4.25, so I have to decide like which way. But no, I still have a really good time watching this. It's such a good cast, and yeah, poor Kerr in the middle. Just, that's a tough way. Lose all your brothers just within 30 seconds, you know. But at least Sam Elliott makes it. Who again? Sam Elliott just like, he's looked the same for 30 years. Like, he's
The
great,
best,
but he
man.
just like, he's like Ric Flair. He looks old the second he was born. Like, this man never has looked young. He's never. And then I kind of forgot about it, but man, I love, and I'm gonna throw it over to Kirklin, because I wonder if you had a good experience when this happened. But man, Charlton Heston in there for like a nice 10-second cameo. It's so random. It's like he's just hanging out with his friends, like, hey, you want to be in this movie? Sure, kid. And like, he just like, we'll keep him safe, and then they go away. And it's funny, when I pull up on IMDb, he's like 4th or 5th in the cast list. Like, he's up high, but he's in there for like a cup, not even a cup of coffee, a shot. But fucking Charlton Heston's the man. So
I had to rewind just to make sure that it actually was him. It happened a few times, honestly, throughout the film for me, of like with the Billy Bob Thornton appearance. I heard the voice. I'm like, holy fuck, that's Billy Bob Thornton. And then they show him, and I'm like, oh, that's not Billy Bob Thornton, but it sounds like him. And then they do the zoom in shot, and it just, yeah, he's so chubby compared to what I've seen him be in other roles. But yeah, I had never seen this movie before. I'm kind of surprised that I hadn't, honestly, just because like when it came out, and I was really famous for just watching movies on like cable, on like what you said, Travis, on like TBS or just all those other channels. Like, those would be like my weekends. Oftentimes, I would just be watching those movies, and I can't believe I never saw this, and I've never even heard of it. And like thinking of how many people are in this, it's it's just kind of surprising. But I had a really good time with this one, actually. I started watching it last night, and then it got to like 1:30 when they're entering like that, you know, going for the full revenge murder, all these cowboys sequence, and I was just fading in and out. I was like Doc on the bed. I was having fever dreams. And then I remember like waking up at the end, like when they're doing like the sailing off into the sunset sort of thing with that love interest, and I'm like, what the fuck happened in this movie? Like, I feel like I missed so much. So it was funny to rewatch that last act like this morning, and it's like, man, they actually don't fill in a lot of the gaps. Like, they actually just kind of bounce around a lot. I had some issues with just like following maybe certain like chronological order of things, because it seems like there is some time skips in here, but like they don't give you a date or like how much time that happened. So it was kind of hard for me to piece that together, just for how long they like really were in the town of Tombstone, because they come in and then they just kind of take it over, and it just seems like they got their roots deep. But no, this was just such a fun time, and I really enjoyed the opening, honestly. Just them coming to the town. I felt like it was just like the start of a Red Dead Redemption game, and this movie really made me think of like, I don't think I've really seen that many Westerns like at all, really. It's my Western experience have been from like Red Dead Redemption, Once Upon a Time in
Wild Wild
Hollywood, you know,
West.
like the sitcom. Wild Wild West, yeah,
Wild
exactly.
Wild West
like,
for sure. Yeah.
That was my.
You,
that
you
was
gotta,
my that was my.
you gotta watch
interior
Unforgiven.
Western.
You gotta watch the Clint Eastwood trilogy. Man, no,
yeah, I haven't seen any of those old Clint Eastwood ones. So this was like my non-satirical, you know, like Western experience, and it was phenomenal. They just did such a good job with the world building, all of like the stacked cast in here. It was just fun to just have them bounce around on screen, and I really just like the setup of the, I guess, like the antagonists, like with the cowboys, how like they're not just straight up like, you know, button heads like with our main crew, but like it's really just, oh yeah, this like it's gonna be a big car crash later on in the film when these two clash, and it did not disappoint at all when we got to that point. So yeah, I had a little bit of issues with just like the way that we were bouncing around and like some. Yeah, I just maybe like the way that it was cut, like specifically in the back half. It seemed like we were just bouncing around, and the way that they just kind of wrote off, like we already mentioned, like with his, I guess, ex-wife, or they're just
assuming,
not
like,
actually divorced. It's
He's
just
like,
they-
whatever, I'm gonna just go marry another person, because I'm sure back
Yeah.
then they didn't like track. They weren't like, can I get your legal documents if you're married? You just have to believe like, yeah, my name's Wyatt Earp and I'm single. It's like, okay, sure, like let's get married to Lois Lane here, who did, that's who voiced Lois Lane in the animated series, if we ever get
Oh,
here
okay.
in the 90s. Yeah,
Really?
so yeah.
The thing too that I made me realize while I was watching this is I feel like I haven't actually seen like a lot of like big Kurt Russell roles. Like I've just kind of seen him in like later stuff, like after he's already been so established. So to see him here, like younger, not like, you know, like really young, but like still younger than what he would have been in like Guardians, for example. I'm just like, man, like this guy, there's a reason why he is the man. So yeah, I really appreciate him here, and
Awesome.
never
Have you ever
saw
seen The
Val
Thing?
Kilmer in another role either.
Or have you ever seen Escape from New York? Shout out to Clay, who's always.
I think I
shouting
have
us out.
seen The Thing like a long time ago on TV, like with commercials. So like, don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
remember it all.
Probably
but,
all the kills are very edited down.
Yeah,
and all.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, I was just curious because, like, one thing I forgot to say about the villains, I did like that. Other than, you got a few actors that are like, you know, white men playing Mexican. And you're like, oh right, this is in that era where like you could play anything you wanted. But like the other two, I forgot. It was one Michael Biehn, which is like I don't know where Michael Biehn is anymore. Like why he just like stopped acting. And two, like same thing. Thomas Hayden Church when he popped in, it's like such a random like, oh right, he's here.
He looks so different. He
He does, yeah. But it's that voice again. Like again, his voice is not changed at all. It's been that same key and everything. But with the villains, I love the setup. Like, man, so brutal. They like take over that wedding, kill the husband, kill the wife, just eat the. It's like you just want these guys. Like the second you see that actor, like, okay, I'm ready for these guys to get destroyed. And Stephen Lang, funny enough, we were talking about him last night, but like there's a guy unrecognizable because like that's another guy that for the most time he always looks old, but he like looks semi younger here, and he's playing like a pathetic Weasley character, which is not at all like since the 2000s he's not played that at all. He's the big brute tough guy, you know, scary guy and don't breathe. But here it's like to see him be like, no, please don't kill me. It's like, oh my god, like I'd love to see him do something like that again now because I feel like he's kind of typecast, you know, into like the fucking Pandora guy. But it was great seeing him do this type of role and everything. So
I didn't realize it was him until like literally just now when I pulled up the movie on IMDb.
That's OK Corral shootout where he's like, no, don't fight, don't shoot Billy. Like that scene is so freaking good. And Kurt Russell's like, oh my god, and then it all starts. I love that scene. It's so good.
I love I can't remember which part it is, but when the shooting's going down, he's like, yeah, I got no gun. He's like, either fight or run, and he runs.
It's in that
okay,
fight.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes into the bar and he finds some guy, takes his gun, and then starts shooting at Kurt Russell. And Kurt's like, you slimy bastard! Like he reminds me so much of the Benny character in The Mummy. Like just no matter like he's with you until he's not, he'll turn on you in a second, and it's so good. So. Before Manny goes, I was curious because I was looking up on IMDb. This thing only got 2 awards, not even Oscars, MTV awards, and they're both for Val Kilmer, just nominees. He got Best Male Performance and then Most Desirable Male for this movie, which I feel like he looks the least desirable I've ever seen him in. Like Val Kilmer's a good-looking guy. Yeah, he's sickly, really skinny, but that's the only thing. Not a single Oscar for like even nominated for like production or costuming, everything like that. To put in perspective, that's the year Schindler's List won, and that's the year Anna Paquin won an Oscar at 11 years old, which is just like
for
fucking
what? Really? I didn't
nuts.
know that.
Yeah, for the piano. Yeah, 11 years old, she won an Oscar.
Jesus.
Like, what do you do
didn't know
after
that.
that? That's why she just does whatever. She does True Blood and X-Men because like 11 years old, you got an Oscar. just wild. But Matty, how many times have you seen it? If not, was this your first time, and what do you think about Tombstone here?
It was the first time, and I'm similar to Kirklin.
Oh,
I don't know if I had heard about it, but you know, as soon as Dalton brought it up, I saw the cast. I was like, man, this is something. I had some similar experiences to you guys, like well, you just mentioned the production. Like the production was awesome, and the design of just everything looked like it just looked so legit, you know.
hmm
I had a good time with it. I read Mike's review on Letterboxd when the first time you watched it, and I feel like it sums up my thoughts pretty well. Like I appreciated everything. Just that the first half was a bit slow, but then kind of once the ball gets rolling in the second half, I was digging it a bit more. And I was even Travis, you had written in the Discord because I know you had seen it before,
hmm
but just the reaction you had, or even Kirkland said it, like of just all these cast members appearing. Because when we first brought it up, I saw like you know the main four, and already I was sold. I'm like
Yeah,
this
good
foursome
cast.
is
Yeah.
stacked, you know. But then just all of the minor characters that you mentioned, all those actors popping up, like there were so many times I was looking, I'm like, is that who I think it is? And I had to go pull up the list, and what I would always do is I wouldn't search the Tombstone cast because I'm like, you know what, I don't want to see who else is in there because I'm like there must be
That's
more
smart.
people. So I would search the actor, and wouldn't you know, every time I clicked their name, yeah, Tombstone's there, Tombstone's there. I was like, this is crazy. Like everyone's in this movie. There was even, like you said, Stephen Lang, freaking Terry O'Quinn. I'm a lost guy, so he's literally in there for 2 seconds. But I'm like, how's he in this? So many people, man. Michael Rooker, like
Right, I
even
forgot what
Rooker,
Rooker.
I
Rooker's
Right?
spotted
good.
even
Yeah.
there's the guy who plays the I don't know if anyone spotted him, the guy who plays the husband in My Big Fat Greek Wedding. He's in there too, and
He was
he
in there,
gets
right? He's
killed
from Sex
off.
and the City.
Yeah, he gets
Yeah,
killed off at the
right.
end like very quickly. I was like, there's just so many people popping up in this. I couldn't believe it. And it's like you said, like looking back at the time, it's you don't have that perspective because some of them like you know their careers grow, but just looking back on it, it has to be like one of the most stacked casts ever, man.
Shout out to Laura Kenny,
It's
who was the
insane.
casting director on this.
Insane.
She casted every DCU movie into Zack Snyder's Justice League. Funny enough, really random, like Wonder Woman, Justice
She's
League,
still
BVS.
going. Nice.
Justice League was her last one though for the Zack Snyder one, so she peaked there and it was done. But
Yeah.
Argo, big shout for me. Cloud Atlas, that's a fucking well cast directed movie. I don't care. I fucking love.
Yeah.
I love Cloud Atlas. I'm just trying to see what else. Ghost Ship, Swordfish, Red Planet, House on Haunted Hill, Boondock
Jeez.
Saints. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. What else? But yeah, that was
crazy,
kind of the
man.
bit that I feel like her movies before are like, you know, like just movies I've heard of or never heard of, like Soap Dish or like Conehead or Wayne's World 2. But when she does Tombstone, that's when there's like a bunch of bigger movies after. So that probably helped her a lot. But yeah, shout out to Laura Kennedy, who just like,
Nuts, man.
you know, casted that movie. And just like I said, people like the Sex and the City guy or Thomas Hayes Church, you gotta find them. So
Yeah,
that's great.
Thomas Hayden, like just it goes like 12, 15 guys deep, you know, in just these minor roles. I was disappointed. I do want to. I love Sam Elliott. I'm disappointed like he didn't have. I was hoping for maybe just a bigger role in this. But I'm sure. I mean, he's probably in a bunch of westerns that I haven't seen too. So and then, I shouldn't hate on him not being in this. He has one of the best voices ever, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
He's like the Ralph Ineson of back. Like Ralph Ineson is my guy now with the voice, but Sam Elliott is just like one of the GOAT voices ever, man.
You're
His
saying if they
character
did
was
F4
actually
in the
my favorite in the
90s?
movie.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like Sam Elliott, actually, he was probably my favorite character in the movie as far as
Really?
just like
Okay.
personality-wise, because I went into it like with thinking of what like what characters are going to be like, and
Yeah.
his character is what I thought that the Kurt Russell character was going to be like, just the really like noble, upstanding guy who's trying to do the right
Yeah.
thing, and the way his story ends, like yeah, it's tragic, but also you know he gets back up again, and the line at the end is the only like hopeful one where it says like, oh, even though without an arm he still went on to become a sheriff in the town. Like his arc, I feel like was to me he had not a lot of screen time, but like the best use of that screen time went to him.
Yeah, because Russell was the character who's like, I don't want anything. Like, I don't want to do this. He kept telling brothers, like, I just want a nice life and everything like that. Which even the lady's like, well, what does that even mean? But yeah, you would think that when you see Kurt Russell, that's the badass. But it's like a nice retired badass. You know he can, because anytime he whips out, he's ready to go. He's like, he's the even Bill Paxton. He's like, you're the one, brother. You're the one. Like he has a whole chosen one sort of complex and everything like that. So it is a nice kind of switch up. And yeah,
There's
sorry
that
for
one scene.
their lives.
There's a guy. there's a guy like he starts getting in Sam Elliott's face and like going at him, and I was just wondering to myself like, I know it's a fictional movie, but I'm like, even in real life, like what on earth would make you want to get in Sam Elliott's face? Like that's not the guy, man, to do this with. And like it perfectly ends with with him knocking the guy out after. So I was like, that's pretty fitting. It doesn't seem like a good idea, even a movie to real life or movie. You don't go at Sam Elliott, man.
Go at Paxton. He's easy target.
I have two quick things on Tombstone. One, I freaking love. I didn't talk about Michael Biehn. I am such a Bean boy. I think he is so good in every. Like I freaking love Michael Biehn. Terminator. The Abyss. He was a big James Cameron guy for a while there.
Aliens. Remember, he's in
Aliens. That's my favorite one. He's so good in Aliens. Yeah, he was awesome there for a while. That and I love that whole OK Corral shootout. And before that, you're talking about like Kurt Russell doesn't want to be in this. I love when a movie actually talks about how some of the characters like haven't ever been in a shootout or a fight before. And Bill Paxton says like, we got to do this. And Kurt Russell says, no, have you ever shot somebody before? It's awful. Like it's just a little detail, but it sets the stakes so much more. And I remember my favorite thing in recent memory of someone doing that is last year in Rebel Ridge. I know I talk about that movie all the time, but when Aaron Pierre's character is like, believe it or not, Chief, I had only ever been in a couple fights in like the schoolyard or something before this. Never actually been in a fight. Like, man, that just makes it it just ratchets it up a whole nother degree.
Yeah, and Russell said he's only killed one guy too, but it was like a terrible experience. But then I at the end, he's like, "Oh, this speech did nothing for you." Like they listened to their brother, but they really didn't. They're like, "Yeah, whatever. We're still doing the shootout," and that sort of stuff. But yeah, I kind of forgot. I looked at it as Chris said. Michael Biehn was in Mandalorian for an episode. I completely forgot about that because he like stopped.
Didn't use him enough.
Yeah, he's like, I think he just took a lot of breaks, and then he did stuff like Scorpion King 4,
out my movie,
Quest for Power.
Clock Stoppers, Mike. He's actually the villain in Clock Stoppers.
Really? Wow. Okay. Wow.
He is in an Adam Wingard movie coming up next year called Onslaught that has Dan Stevens and Rebecca Hall and Adria Drona. So,
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so there you go. Might be something. But
finally, he's taking a break from doing Godzilla movies. Good.
Yeah, finally. But it was good. So Dalton, thanks for picking that one. And then again,
I do want to shout out, sorry, Travis, my favorite line to Val Kilmer when the guy tells him outside, you're so drunk, you're probably seeing double, and he goes, I've got 2 guns, one for you.
So cool.
It's so good. And I love that's such like a awesome line that whoever was writing it was like, that's a fucking great. Like you're just like thinking to yourself, that's a great line.
So
but
good.
Even at the end, I love when Michael Biehn is like expecting Kurt Russell, right? And you just see the cigarette and you just see him walk out and drop the Huckleberry line again. And he's like feigning how sick he is, but it's such a good moment because they set that up earlier, right? Of like who's faster, right? And he does the guns and everyone's really cool. And then Val Kilmer's doing it with like a cup and he's kind of just making fun of him and he's all pissed off at him. Like, it was such a good pay. Like, that's what sometimes movies just miss. Like, that's an easy payoff. Have a scene earlier in the movie where Val Kilmer embarrasses him, and then later on they bring it all back together, and then he fucking kills him. So Michael Biehn is 0 for 2 when it comes to against Doc Holliday, unfortunately for him. But it's such a good little moment there, and he had the sheriff badge. It's like it's such.
I just feel like the screenwriter was on a completely different level when he was writing Val Kilmer's lines. Like, I just love it when a character could be identified by just the way he talks, the dialogue he has. It could make him recognizable. And Val Kilmer, of course, brings a lot to the performance too. But just my favorite line was just a line like, I'm not sure who he was talking to, but he was talking about how, this is a nice town, and the guy gets killed right in front of him, and Val Kilmer says, very cosmopolitan.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic performance. That's why I even looked it up. Like, did he even get like a supporting nom? But no, like I just don't even like. Hang on, let me even see who's supporting actor that year before we move on to Wild Robot. So it was the 1940.
The Oscars usually shun the westerns. I'm not sure historically.
Well, that movie.
No.
Unforgiven was the big one, I think, that really got the awards.
Because I feel like it won some, but
it had a ton of production trouble. Like Kurt Russell had to take over ghost directing because the director.
Okay, that's hilarious. Because the director of this movie also directed Rambo 2, and there's rumors that Sylvester Stallone had to go ghost direct Rambo 2 because he was just a.
How does that keep?
Well, and his son is now a big director. His son directed Mandy with Nicolas Cage a couple years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
He just bails on set. There's no-
Yeah, well, and like it happens. Like that's what came about. Obviously, there's other bad stuff that came about Bryan Singer, but that happened with all the X-Men stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, you guys love Days of Future Past. It's like he didn't direct much of that because it's always like, oh fuck, like I'd be so like that'd be the hardest thing to hold. Not for actors, but if you're another or like even Bohemian Rhapsody, right? Whatever you feel about that movie, it made tons of money, won Grammy and an Oscar, a bunch of Oscar noms, right? And Bryan Singer's the director, but the word is like, yeah, he didn't really direct most of that movie. And it's like that as an actor, because you get to be on poster with that, I'm sure you're fine. But if you're another director or producer and you're directing that and you get no credit, you must just be pissed. It's just
Singer
like
directed that. I completely forgot.
it's whoever's the guy. Yeah, no, he was the director. Who's the director that did Rocket Man? Mike, you would know, right?
I don't remember his name, but yeah, he directed Rocketman and he ghost directed Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, and that's where he's known for great musicals, and and then of course he does Rocket Man, and that movie it doesn't bomb, but it underperforms, gets no Oscars. So the movie he actually directs, no love, but the movie he doesn't have his name on is like
And
Academy
Rocketman was the
Award.
better movie. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Okay, but on
I
that
can't
note,
decide.
Travis, like how does like let's say even it's off topic, but like Justice League, why is it that
Zach still has
the
credit on
Whedon, the Whedon one, why is it still listed as
It's technically
Snyder?
a
That's what I don't get.
percentage, so technically the
Okay.
footage, even if they color grade it and add stuff, if Zach, which is the case, right? Like if you look at the two movies, they're very different, but they follow like a similar plot structure.
Yeah.
So I think it's like I think it's 70%. If you direct 70%, you're still listed. But I think there's certain situations that people just don't like. If it's on-set problems, they're not really reporting it, like the Bohemian Rhapsody stuff, or even Just League. That you probably
Dexter
can make
Fletcher
a
was
case.
his name.
Dexter Fletcher, yeah. Like you could there's probably many times you could make a case like Kurt Russell could get credit, but they just go like, let's not even deal with, like, let's not put that out there. Let's just say the guy directed it and move on. So I think it's like 70%, but it's also like a don't ask, don't tell situation. Because I'm sure Zach does not want his name on the 2017 one, but it is. So, and then before we move on to best supporting actor 1940s or 1990, not 40s, didn't go back that far. Yeah, he wasn't nominated in the 40s.
Clark Gable and-
1994 was Pete Polzawat, don't know who that is, in The Name of the Father, and then John Malkovich in The Line of Fire, Ray Fiennes in Schindler's List, Leo in What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and then the winner was Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. So, yeah, that was your
Really?
list. So I've not watched In the Name of the Father, so I don't know if Pete should have got the boot. But I like The Fugitive, but even then, like I like what Kilmer's doing better here than The Fugitive. Like it's
Yeah,
just
that
Tommy Lee
surprises
Jones,
me.
right?
Yeah, that's
Like,
it's a good
it's just-
I'm
movie.
surprised
It's a
Ray
good
Fiennes
movie,
didn't win
but-
that.
I agree. Or even Leo, who's like he's playing a child with special needs. It's like to me much more taxing than like Tommy Lee Jones is just cool in that movie,
He's
right?
playing
Like
a
I didn't kill
cop,
my wife.
He's playing a
I
detective.
don't care, like, but whatever, it happens, right? Like that's what Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, right? It's just like, oh, Brad Pitt's so fucking cool, let's just give it to him finally,
Did Ford get a nom? Do you know if Ford got a nom for?
Let me quickly look
Fugitive?
at Best Actor.
That'd be kinda-
Okay, actor in a leading role. He did not. So the nominees were Liam Neeson, Schindler's List, Anthony Hopkins in The Remains of the Day, Lawrence Fishburne in What's Love Got to Do with It, Daniel Day in The Name of the Father. I got to watch In the Name of the Father, and then Tom Hanks for Philadelphia. That's the year he did the 2-peat where he did that, and then he won for Forrest Gump. So
That's a stack cast right there, so it's hard to beat.
and then even in supporting, like, why is Denzel not for Philadelphia either? That's super. Oscars are always fucked.
Weird.
Oh, you think it's this year? No, they're all like, you look at it back, you're like, what? It's like, either way. But, speaking of the Oscars, two things. One, I know some of these gentlemen will be here. Next week, we'll be doing the Oscar predictions cast same time. So if you got to watch anything, I think I might try to watch Amelia Perez because I think I might do a reaction video for it. I might tinker
Nice.
with it and then like record myself and just have it on, see
Take
what
the
happens.
bullets from me, Travis.
I will. But yeah, so we're gonna do that like last year. There'll be a tally and a pool, so we'll probably watch a film and talk about it on After 9. But then to transition, Wild Robot is nominated for Best Animated Movie, and Dalton somehow won both the fantasy and the playoff pool, the bastard. So not unfortunately, because great movie. But yeah, I can't remember. I think I talked about this mainly on a GeekVerse, like on a what you've been watching, so I won't try to reiterate too much. But this to me was a phenomenal movie. All I had to go on was the artwork, but when I saw that first trailer, I was blown away. I was like, wow, this feels like it's gonna be something different. And then when I got there, it felt like that. I feel like it has a sense like to me like Spider-Verse where it is like a animated kids movie, but there's some more maturity to it. So that's what I like. And yeah, the art and the thing that I wouldn't have known until you watched the movie, but the score, like I'll show my hands. I think like that is my Golden Geeks like winner for best score. I have to wait till we do the whole thing, but like the score is just knockout. Like the entire movie, whether it's just like the exploration, the emotional beats, like when I can't remember the duck or goose's name, but when he's leaving and she's running, that score is going. You're like, oh, I feel like I'm having a religious experience in the theater. That score is like my outer body experience right now, which is like the bass going and
You
yeah,
went with
voice
the
acting.
fam in theaters.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we saw. I
Nice.
can't remember. I think a couple days after opening weekend, but yeah, and they all liked it. Luckily, it's on Prime now. But this is one that I think I'm gonna buy. I don't buy too many movies, but this is one where it's like I'd like to have a copy just ready to go as crisp as possible. But no, I absolutely love it. I think it's a different type of third act, and it almost does kind of get a little superhero-y where it's okay, robots invading, but it's weird because when the goose leaves, that feels like the end of the movie. Like you could almost end the movie there. So like the third act, it has a weird vibe where it's like feels like an epilogue in a sense, but it's
Yeah.
like a long epilogue. Like but that's what I think I kind of like. It just has like a different vibe. But no, I love this movie, and for me, it's something I'll be fighting for in Golden Geese, kind of like in multiple categories. And I don't think it's gonna win Best Animated. I can't remember. Something else has been winning Best Animated a lot of places. Oh, it's
It's
that
got a good
Flow
shot.
movie with the cat.
Yeah.
It's that cat movie. So anytime
I
there's an
just saw
arty
they're
cat,
working on. I saw a report. I don't know if it was yesterday or today. My mind's been busted this morning, but that they're working on a sequel. Already?
they are, yeah. Because I don't know how many, but I know there's at least 3 books. Because they
okay.
were children. Yeah, we got Gwen them for Christmas, and she hasn't
I
read
didn't
them
know
yet
that,
because she's
no.
reading Matilda first. And they're not. I think they have pictures, but they're not like just picture books. They're actual like kid chapter books and
Yeah.
stuff. So
Nice.
yeah, and I'll be excited to see more of it. But yeah, I absolutely love the Wild Robot. But Kirkland, this was your first time watching it, right?
No, this is my second time watching it. I guess second and a half, because the first time that we watched it, we just rented it right when it came to VOD there, and yeah, Shay and I put it on Saturday night or something, or it might have been Friday night because I was just so exhausted, and like I remember even like the first time I watched the trailer, I wasn't that impressed by it. I'm like, this just seems like a movie that I've seen before, but like it looks cute, so I'm sure it'll be good. Threw it on and. I definitely was loving it. I think I was surprised by just some of the dynamics with the characters. I was really like Pedro was just fantastic, and he's just been on a roll lately. So I'm so happy anytime he's on something. And I did like the film, but like you said, Travis, like it felt like Bright Bill. By the way, that was the name of
Thank you.
the bird.
And it's a goose or is it a duck? What is it?
Goose.
No, it's a
Goose.
bird.
Thank you.
It's a goose.
It's a bird. I should have just said the bird. But yeah, there you go. It's a goose. Yeah.
So yeah, like when he leaves, I'm like, man, this is like the end of the movie, and I'm pretty sure that's like when I fell asleep. Like I didn't make it through the movie the first
Your
time
mind
around.
was like,
So
oh,
then,
you finished
yeah,
the Wild Robot.
I like wake up 2 a.m. or something. Shay's like, yeah, we're going to bed. She's like, movie was so good. And then fast forward next morning, she told me I did not finish the movie actually. So then I just rewatched like the last half of it, I guess, like the next morning, and I was like in tears, like 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Like I was just so blown away by the ending. It just seemed like it was so, like that's really where the special factor of the movie for me like really shined, was the ending, because it just, like you said already, Travis, like it felt like a long epilogue, and just something that I was not expecting for a movie that it seemed like a plot that I'd seen before, but then it was something a lot more special to it. And yeah, I thought all the performances, like there's some big names in there, like Mark Hamill is a character.
Yeah, he's the bear, right? I think.
Yeah, Thorne. So
Really? I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
yeah, so I really
2
was
Mark Hamill's movies for you today, Matty.
Don't remind me.
So yeah, I just love the performances, and the animation was just phenomenal. But you already highlighted, Travis, but like the score was, it really just multiplied those scenes for me. Just the epic nature of them. It was super incredible, and just such a beautiful movie. Like I feel like there's a lot of like underlining like messages in there, like more so than just like what the overall theme is. So yeah, it was very special movie, and worthy for all the credit it's getting.
Matty, what do you think about this? Was this your first time? See it many times?
First time, man, it was good. It was one that I missed last year, so I'm kind of glad that Dalton chose it, because it kind of fell through the cracks. I'd watched quite a bit last year, so I'm glad I got to see it. I heard a lot of good things. I didn't know it was based off the books, actually, so that's interesting. But no, it was great, man. The animation was really well done. It was a sweet story, you know. I don't know how often I'll revisit it, but I had a good time with it. The peak was probably the scene you shouted out there when she's when you know she lets you said the goose, the bird or the goose when he flies off
a bird,
with the pack. You know, that was a nice scene. It was touching, but that was good. I had a good time with it, and the epilogue. I don't know if I feel as strongly as you guys there. I feel like maybe it kind of halted a bit for me at that point, but they wrapped it up decently enough. And if they make another one, I'll probably check it out at this point, assuming the reviews are decent. You know, maybe a home watch.
There you go, Clay.
Yeah, no, I thought this movie fucking sucked. No, I'm just kidding. No, I thought it was great.
Clay Letterbox 1.5 out of 5.
Yeah, no, I think I spoiled myself on Letterboxd. I gave it a good score. Yeah, no, I thought so. I wanted to see this one in theaters last year. I had heard good things, and I just missed it. There was so much coming out, and I just missed it.
Yeah.
And it was in theaters for a while. I kept wanting to go. I didn't. Anyway, eventually, told myself I would watch it before the Oscars. This was the good push that I needed. Or Dalton recommending it in the Discord, picking it, and then yeah, I fired it up. I got 15 minutes in. And then I fell asleep late night. But that is not
arm passed out.
That is not
going on around
indicative.
here.
Yeah, that's not indicative of the movie's quality. Because yeah, I fired it up late at night, and my roommate was out. He's in a pool league, and he got back from pool hammered, and he sat down and he was like almost crying during the migration scene. I was like, this is so freaking good. So I had the added bonus of watching him get super emotional about it. I had a really good time with it.
Sorry, Clay, when you say he's crying, is it like, is he doing it discreetly and you noticed, or is it like abundantly
no,
sharing his emotions with
you? He was literally going like, oh my god, this is so sad. This is so sad. It was great. So yeah, that was an added bonus, but that migration scene is freaking awesome. I mean, it was a movie for me that made you want to call your mom, which is a good way of looking at it. I was like, man, this hits in the feels. And you know, if you're lucky enough to have a good mom, which I think I am, like I just took away from it. Wow, you know, it makes you appreciate what your mom does, and it was cool. It was really, really cool. I thought it was all genuine. Sometimes that can come off a little bit soapy. But it doesn't have like kid gloves. It's a kid movie that approaches it with an adult mind, and that sometimes gets really screwed up. Like they talked about how Goonies is coming back. Or somebody sent that in the Discord, and I love the Goonies. Yeah, and I just feel like there's something lost on only so many producers and directors and writers nowadays can tackle the kid angle the right way. And I thought that Wild Robot tackled it very, very well from an adult parent perspective of, you know, growing up and how tough that can be for parents. So it was cool to see that. I'm not a parent myself, but it gave me some perspective. So I liked that a lot.
Well, like 2 points on that you're talking about with like the kids' gloves and everything. Like, there is times where like a little duck just looks to the big goose. These fucking birds are just like, yeah, that thing murdered your mom, and she's like, just use the word murdered, right? That's something where it's like, geez, like it's, and that's fine. I'm fine with my kid because my kids are watching like more. I raised them a bit more how I was raised. I'm not showing them Scarface or anything, but I'm not like I'm letting them watch some stuff. But that's the thing we were talking about too, like with the Goonies. I feel like stuff like that happens, but stuff like Stranger Things where it's like, oh, kids can't watch that because it's a rated R horror like show, right? And that's where it's like, oh, we can have the kids act almost semi more realistic or lifelike, but they're always in mature stuff. And it's like, well, that could still happen, and they should still happen in more of these PG or G rated things. But then it's like in those sometimes they're just so very like shiny kid gloves, like it's a lot of fart jokes, which you can have that, but because that's the only thing I could think of with Goonies is like Stranger Things, but it's like, yeah, you can't put that on with a 5-year-old and be like, hey, like it's there's kids, but you're gonna learn some stuff. Like with Goonies, I thought was always the right line of there are children or teens, and there's some sexual humor stuff like that, but it always felt like age appropriate. Like yeah, if you're watching around that time, that's around the time that your friends are joking about that, or you're wondering about that, or you're starting to like a guy or a girl, where now it's just they kind of have to avoid that thing. So
it's
I
hard
agree.
to toe it's hard to toe the line, right?
Yes.
Between that's really hard, and I applaud anybody that can do it.
Yeah. What about you, Mike? Was this your first time, or was it a rewatch? How was your story with Wild Robot here?
Yes, this was my first time. Also, kind of like with you guys, I had it on my list to watch for the Oscars. And
I thought you were going to say you fell asleep. I was like, oh, damn.
I didn't actually. I watched it in 2 parts, but I didn't fall asleep during any portion.
Yeah.
Kind of like Kirklin, though. When I first saw the trailer for this, I saw it before Inside Out 2. And I came in like late to the movie, and this trailer was playing, and I was like, what the hell is this? This looks weird. I'm not sure if I like it. So I was entering it like with a skeptical eye, like I'm not sure. And then all the praise came out for it, and that made me even more like, I can't be that good, come on. So when I watched it, it started off okay. It's an interesting premise, some gorgeous animation, and the more the movie went on, the more I absolutely fell in love with it. It gave me a lot of like Wall-E vibes of like an opening where there's not a lot of dialogue, a lot of like exploring this world, trying to figure out, okay, what's going on here.
The opening was cool.
Yeah. Like, is this after the apocalypse? Is it just like on some weird island, or is this a magical world? What's going on?
And barely any dialogue, right? It's just like the robot
yeah.
saying stuff, but it's not like a bunch of talk or the animals are talking. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, just like you're just kind of in the area, in the world, like learning about it. So
exactly, and just the evolution of Roz as a character, where she starts off talking like very robotically, the protocol dialogue she has to have, and then seeing as she's talking more and more human, or I guess animal, in the case maybe, as the movie goes on. I really like that, and yeah, the relationship with all the different characters, with the little gooseling, I love that. The fox reminded me a lot of the fox from Zootopia, so I already kind of like that. So then it really like went to the peak with when Bill Nighy's character came in. Really loved him. He really had some good emotional dialogue. What he was saying about with the heart stuff, that tugged at my heartstrings. But yeah, the last like 20 minutes or so, I don't know what happened. That like it's interesting that it's based on a book. So I'm wondering if that part is in the book, because that to me screamed like studio executive coming in and saying, "Hey, we need to add in some action at the end of this thing. We can't just end it on like some emotional beat. We gotta put some conflict in there." So then you just throw in this robot enemy out of nowhere. That felt a bit forced. There was also a kind of a line of dialogue that made me laugh, is when she says the title of the movie, like, "I am a wild robot." I'm like, that felt a bit forced to me. I'm not sure how I feel about that. So that whole last 20 minutes kind of brought it down a bit. But my overall, I think this is a great movie. And like you guys, to your point about how it's very mature, you hear a baby possum die on screen. I mean, it just gets devoured when the mother says, "Oh, you have 7 kids. Oh, 6 now." I was like, holy shit, this movie is not messing around. So, overall, really, really enjoyed it. And I'd still put it under Inside Out 2 for me as far as animated movies of the year. But that's a personal thing, because I really like the way that movie handled anxiety. And I feel like this is a great movie for parents. If you're a parent watching this, I can't relate to that, but I'm sure it must be even more powerful for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd be like, "See, Wild Robot, you better appreciate me. Look at all the stuff we do. Get in line." But no, I don't know because I have not read the books, but I have a friend that did read the books, and I think there is some differences. I don't know if it is with that third act or whatnot, and I don't know if it's just minor stuff, and obviously that's what you do, right? You adapt and everything. So, but yeah, there is 2 other books. I'm saying that I'm not sure how they adapt it or what they do after the fact, but so finally
you're getting the books, you have them, or you're getting
we bought her that's why this is why I don't know if there is just 3 or we had only bought her 3. I can't remember, because it was like some sort of bundle, like a package thing that came together, and they really liked it too, so that's where I haven't looked into. But that's like a good, we got her Christmas those and Matilda, because Gwen really likes to read, so it's like, okay, that's a good. And I hand down all my Goosebumps book to her, so she's good for like 2 years now, but who knows. But finally, we're going to let Matty pretty much have the floor here. But the holiday special, this is something that you can go back. Me and Kirklin did a commentary track for think whenever the PlayStation 5 came out, because I remember it got delivered during that cast and I almost missed it and I was going to be pissed. But so you go there. It's not a big surprise. I don't think me and Kirklin were any fans, but I would recommend that you watch with people. I don't think Matty did watch with people, so it's probably not as fun. But I wanted to ask Clay, and I'll ask you, Mike, after. Have you guys ever seen this in your life, or is it still something you're putting off? Where are you with the holiday special, if you've seen it before?
I've seen it. I've seen it a few times, unfortunately.
Wow.
With other people as like let's get together and see what the hell this is. And I did send my note. I do have to take off in a couple minutes. I'm sorry to be rude.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, Matty, I'm sorry to put you through it. I specifically, my one thought I'll give is I specifically remember the exact job that I was working. I was out in the cold and snow. And I remember you guys put this commentary track podcast out, and I was working out there with an earbud in, and I remember some of my coworkers were looking at me like I was a psycho because I could not stop laughing at how Taylor was losing his freaking mind.
He was mad.
I can only imagine, Matty, your text in the Discord were cracking me up. I can only imagine how brutal it is to watch this by yourself. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I was dying.
Yeah, no, there's only a few there's to have given negative scores to things now after 10 years, but I think there's only like on a handful of times where I feel like, he's really not enjoying this, and because he had never seen it, and he really hated that. But no, it's all good, Clay. We're about to end up here anyway, so thanks for joining, man. And it was
thank you guys for having me. I'm gonna get out short and sweet, but I appreciate it.
Nice to
see you guys later.
Nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
Take care, man.
See ya.
What about you, Mike? Have you seen this, or have you avoided this abomination?
So I have never actually sat down and watched it like full on from beginning to end, but I feel like through like listening to podcasts like you guys, people talking about it, seeing clips, I feel like through like just general cultural osmosis, I've pretty much seen it, but I do not ever plan on actually watching it from start to finish. So.
It's probably better in that way of just seeing the clips, because before I'd watched it, because I think same thing like you before we did the contract, it's like, okay, I've seen a bit of it and maybe I saw it a long time ago, but that was the first time we're going to sit down and watch it. And I thought it's like, okay, it's because like everyone's back, right? Like Ford, Hamill, like they got the cast. So I'm thinking, okay, it's them doing like a Christmas special and it's really bad. But the problem is it's like, I don't know, man, you watch, it's like 45, 50 minutes or something like that, right? And they're
in it. It's an hour and a half, man. I was dying.
It's an hour and a half?
Dude, it's 90 minutes. It
feels so much longer than that, though.
It feels so much longer too.
minutes.
It's like Endgame like times 2, but it's like they're in there, but they're in there for like 10%. Like the main character is like Chewbacca's brother and this woman who runs a bar, and that's where it's like you spend 45 minutes at this bar with nobody, and that's what was really striking. I remember watching and be like, oh, it's not just like our characters and they're bad. It's like they're barely in this. It's full like all these other stuff, and but yeah, I would recommend, unless you ever have a group of friends or family, like you want to watch something stupid, have a good time. Because I do think if you watch with people, you'll have a great time. But if you watch it alone, like I'm assuming Matty did, which I'll throw to him, probably not the best time. So Matt, this is your first time watching it. What was your knowledge of the holiday special before? Because to be clear, the person that was last in the fantasy, we picked a movie and then we let the Discord vote, and they voted on the holiday special. So you can thank Clay and the Discorders for just ruining one of your afternoons here. But yeah, what was your history of it before, and what are your thoughts on it now after seeing it?
So two things prior to going in. One, I had heard about it in passing, but I'd never seen it. But I did actually watch, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, they released like a documentary on it of I don't know if it was the making of the.
Right, I haven't watched it yet, but yeah, I think I remember we talked about it in the Discord, and I think I have it on like my Letterboxd watch list because I want it. That I'd love to hear about the story and everything.
It was a good watch. It was fun, like the people they interviewed about it, and
yeah.
So I had seen that, and in that documentary, they show like a decent amount of clips, So I felt prepared going into it, but it did not help whatsoever seeing those clips. And ironically, when you guys submitted your choices for my punishments, and they were doing the vote, I saw that it was in the lead at a point, and I promised you, I literally told myself, I was like, I'm actually really happy about this result. Like the other movies looked so brutal, and I was like, okay, I've seen some of these clips before. It looks stupid, but it looks fun. Like I'll have a good time with it. And my God, do I regret thinking that and like putting that out into the universe? That was not. It was brutal, man. I don't want to. I don't want to be like prisoner of the moment reactionary because I just saw it, but like it's possibly like one of the worst things I've ever seen, if not the worst. Like it was that level of bad. But like you
Yeah.
said, like the cast is in there, but they're really not, and they're it was one thing after the other, man. I listened to the com track for like 20 minutes, but now I'm gonna go back and listen to it now that I've seen it. And right away, Kirklin called out like Luke's look in the thing. It's just WTF. Like, what is this look? He looks so weird. I died at Chewie's dad, Itchy. His name is Itchy.
Itchy, yeah. Oh,
He does a really bizarre. I guess he's in like an unhappy, lustless marriage. He's doing a VR session, and it was like the most sexually charged thing I've ever seen. Like it reminded me of what's his name, 40-Year-Old Virgin, when he's watching the porn that Paul Rudd gave him, and it reminded me of one of those like sci-fi pornos that was kicking off. It was bad, man. Like you said, you called out the girl in the bar. There's like
another one on the house on me.
Yeah,
Another
but
round. That
there's
was
like
my
this-
favorite part.
Yeah, it's this weird stretch, man. There's like this guy that's like creeping on her and stalking her, and he like starts touching her inappropriately behind the bar. It was fucking weird, man. The two most things I wrote down that were the most brutal was there's Chewie's mom does a cook along show. It was the most brutal thing I've ever seen. I don't even I don't even want to describe it. Like I can't even describe it if I tried. And then there's like a musical dance number with these the hologram of the Green Dancers. That was terrible. A shout out to Carrie Fisher for being a decent singer. I wasn't expecting that. She has a little singing number at the end. And thank God, I wrote down, thank God for the animated bit. So like midway through, there's like an animated short. Like I don't know how much longer I could have went, and it gave me a break from the live action stuff.
First appearance of Boba Fett.
Is that actually?
anime clip. Yeah, that's the first time Boba Fett ever appeared in the Star Wars universe. Was the
Okay,
holiday
because
special.
this was prior to Empire. That's the timing. Okay,
Yeah.
that's sick. I didn't know that. Yeah, so that's kind of brought me down a bit because I don't know how much longer I could have taken of it going, but then there's like another 45 minutes after the animated. So has there been any animated apart from like Clone Wars Rebels? There's like any Star Wars animated series like back in the day or like another
I don't think
time?
back then.
Really,
No,
yeah?
they
was the
did
Ewoks,
this.
right?
The Ewok movies. Yeah, they made other movies which we should probably watch at some point in our lives for Patreon and GeekVerse because like I think they're supposedly not as bad, but they're still bad. But yeah, it's like at least 2 movies on the Ewoks, and it's always just random people bumping the Ewoks and they go on some adventure. But yeah, nothing animated back
And
then. 'Cause,
droids
like,
too. I think R2D2 and CB3 will have a movie.
Yes, yeah, I think so too. Yeah, because I think because that's in the '80s, right? And I know there's animated movies, but I feel like the animated movies don't really kick off till the '90s, as far as like big companies realizing they can make money off it. So I feel like and that makes sense too, because right in the early 2000s they make like the Clone Wars movie. So I think they just probably didn't look at it as profitable, even though I don't know why they looked at the holiday special and thought, oh, this is gonna be profitable. But I'm sure they got paid a whack load of money just to make something. And I don't know what, like, that's a weird thing. Like the bad stuff is bad, I get that, but when it's the really sexual stuff, that's odd. Because like other than A New Hope of like Han flirting with Leia, it's not like a suit like. Star Wars has never been like, there's like some, nudity or scantily clad women. There is like obviously like the Twi'leks in Jabba's palace, but that's not till the last one. That's like she's a slave being forced and like Leia. But I feel like just specifically in A New Hope, that movie, it's not like a lot of like gratuitous, like almost nudity. It's odd. Like even what Princess Leia wears is like a big bed sheet that doesn't show off any of Carrie Fisher's figure at all, right? So it's just like it's odd that they have multiple things in that special that are like really more adult. And I don't know, I wasn't alive back then, right? I'm sure adults love, but I feel like families and kids love Star Wars. I don't think it was just like an adult franchise. I don't know.
It was fun for the whole family, man. The kids are watching and they're giving some juice to the parents that are like drunk on eggnog. the dad's watching on eggnog. It was bad, man. It was. I kind of wish, looking back, I kind of wish they did some like the animated bit made me like want like a Star Wars animated series, like those '90s cartoon shows. I feel like it would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah, and their style's kind of cool. So, but Yeah, I'm
Curse
sorry.
you, Clay. Never again, man. I'm never finishing last. Mark my words, yo. I'm coming back next
Yeah,
year.
extra motivation
Never
for
again.
that. No, I feel like honestly, we'll leave the Discord people, but I hope you don't lose next year and Clay doesn't lose, and whoever loses, if it's not us, like he puts it in again and it wins again. So whether it's Mike or Dalton or John or anybody else, like you have to like it's like that's the initiative. Like, oh, you
Yeah.
gotta watch the holiday special. So if not, I will put it in for something
The
they haven't
annual
seen. Because like,
punishment.
yeah, it is like like the Ring tape where it's like you have to see it to believe it. It's like
Yeah.
it doesn't have for how bad it is. But
Is it on Disney
no.
Plus, or do you have to go to like some site?
No,
It's on
George
YouTube. I
hates
watched
the
it on
thing. I
YouTube,
think
yeah.
a lot of it was made. I think George agreed to it, but then I think a lot of how it ended up was not like obviously not what he wanted. But I think there's a lot of scuttlebutt with like he really regretted that happening, and if he had his way, he'd have everything destroyed. So yeah, it is not on Disney Plus. Neither is the Ewok movies either. So I think that just happened at a time where. I know George was just probably like had never been that big, and he's just like, oh yeah, let's do that. Let's like just thinking like, yeah, like I have a big movie now. We'll do a special. We'll do a middle minute movie. But I think he was probably like, absolutely not now. But
Mike,
yeah,
don't do it to yourself. Don't do it, man. I'm telling you, I was celebrating. Oh, I got a Star Wars thing. It's stupid. It's bad. It'll be fun. Those other movies look trash, but give me Woody Woodpecker any day, man. Looking back now,
I don't know,
savage.
man. Woody
Jesus.
Woodpecker is also very tough. But well, don't finish last next year, Mike, because I'm gonna put that or Woody, because yeah, Woody's bad. But no, but yes, again, man, thanks for doing that. That was it was tons of fun. Led to a fun conversation here and just fun Discord. So now a little bit awesome. Yeah, keep that Discord open for any sports, any whatever related memes and stuff. But next year we'll be back and do that, and then yeah, we'll see what movies happen then with all these things. But yeah, thank you guys for joining. Thanks Clay for joining. Thanks Dalton for putting in the picks. Thanks everybody that participated. It was a fun time. When you hear from us next, it'll not